Imagine this: you're buckling up for a routine flight, sipping your coffee, when chaos erupts in the aisle. A flight attendant shoves a black female soldier right in front of everyone. But what she does next? One phone call, and the entire plane is grounded, careers ruined, secrets exposed. This isn't just a story, it's a wake call to hidden biases and instant justice. If you're in the USA or UK where equality battles rage on, you won't want to miss a beat. Smash that subscribe button right now for more gripping tales that hit hard and inspire change. Don't scroll away, subscribe and turn on notifications to join the fight against injustice today. The sun was dipping low over the horizon at JFK International Airport, casting long shadows across the tarmac as passengers shuffled aboard Flight 287 bound for London Heathrow. Among them was Sergeant First Class Aisha Thompson, a 32-year-old black woman from Atlanta, Georgia, who had served 2 tours in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq with the U.S. Army. Her uniform was crisp, adorned with ribbons that told stories of bravery under fire. A purple heart for the shrapnel that had scarred her left shoulder, a bronze star for leading her squad through an ambush that saved 12 lives. Aisha carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had stared down death and come out stronger. Her duffel bag slung over one shoulder, containing not just her personal effects but classified documents she was escorting back to a NATO briefing in the UK. She had boarded early, courtesy of priority access for military personnel, and settled into her economy seat 14B by the window. The cabin was filling up slowly, a mix of business travelers in rumpled suits, families with fidgety kids and tourists clutching guidebooks. Aisha closed her eyes for a moment, letting the hum of the engine soothe her jet-lagged mind. Little did she know, this flight would become the stuff of legends, a tale woven with threads of prejudice, power, and unexpected twists that would unravel lives in ways no one could foresee. As the boarding process continued, the lead flight attendant, Karen Whittaker, a 45-year-old white woman from suburban Connecticut with 20 years in the skies, patrolled the aisles like a drill sergeant. Karen had a reputation among her colleagues for being efficient, which was code for brusque and unyielding. Her smile was practiced, her voice clipped, and she had a knack for enforcing rules with an iron fist wrapped in airline policy. Today she was in a foul mood. Her shift had started with a delay due to mechanical issues, and now passengers were dawdling, stowing oversized carry-ons that strained the overhead bins. Karen's eyes narrowed as she spotted Aisha, who had stood up briefly to help an elderly passenger with their luggage. "Ma'am, please remain seated during boarding," Karen barked, her tone sharper than necessary. Aisha nodded politely. "Yes ma'am, just assisting here." But as Aisha turned to sit back down, the aisle clogged with more passengers. Karen, impatient and perhaps harboring unspoken biases from a lifetime of subtle conditioning, reached out and shoved Aisha's shoulder, hard enough to make her stumble back into her seat. Gasps rippled through the nearby rows. "Watch where you're going," Karen snapped, as if Aisha had been the aggressor. The push wasn't just physical, it carried the weight of entitlement, a microaggression amplified in the confined space of the aircraft. Aisha's eyes widened in shock, her military training kicking in to keep her composure. She wasn't one to escalate without cause, but the shove stung, not just her arm, but her pride. Whispers erupted around her. "Did you see that? That's assault." A young black teenager in the row behind filmed it discreetly on his phone, sensing the viral potential. Karen, oblivious or uncaring, continued down the aisle, muttering about disrespectful passengers. But Aisha wasn't about to let it slide. She straightened her uniform, feeling the eyes on her, and pulled out her phone. With steady hands, she dialed a number she hoped she'd never have to use on civilian soil. The direct line to her commanding officer, Colonel Marcus Hale, stationed at the Pentagon but with ties to Homeland Security protocols for military personnel in transit. "Colonel, this is FC Thompson. I've been assaulted by airline staff on Flight 287, requesting immediate intervention." Her voice was calm, professional, but laced with the gravity of someone invoking protocol. The colonel, a grizzled veteran who had mentored Aisha through her promotions, didn't hesitate. "Sit tight, Sergeant. I'll handle this." What followed was a cascade of events that grounded not just the plane but exposed a web of secrets. As the aircraft taxied toward the runway, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been instructed to return to the gate due to a security concern. We apologize for the inconvenience." Groans filled the cabin, but Aisha sat stoic, knowing her call had set wheels in motion. Airport security boarded, escorting Karen off the plane amid her protests. "This is ridiculous!" She bumped into me. But the video from the teenager was already circulating, and by the time they reached the terminal, federal agents from the TSA and FBI were waiting. Colonel Hale had looped in Joint Base Andrews, triggering a protocol under the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. But with a twist, Aisha wasn't just any soldier. She was part of a special ops unit dealing with counter-terrorism intelligence. Her duffel contained encrypted files on a potential threat to transatlantic flights, information that made her a high-value asset. Grounding the plane wasn't optional. It was mandatory to ensure her safety and the integrity of the mission. As investigations unfolded in a sterile airport conference room, twists began to emerge. Karen Whittaker wasn't just a rude attendant. A quick background check revealed she had a history of complaints, racial profiling incidents swept under the rug by the airline. But deeper digging, prompted by Aisha's insistence on a full review, uncovered something explosive. Karen was involved in a smuggling ring. Hidden in her personal effects were microchips destined for black market sales, tech that could compromise airline security systems. How had Aisha's call led to this? The colonel, leveraging military intelligence networks, cross-referenced Karen's name with ongoing investigations into insider threats at major airports. It turned out Karen's ex-husband, a disgraced engineer, had roped her into the scheme for quick cash after their divorce left her in debt. The push on Aisha, Not random racism, though that played a part, it was panic. Karen had overheard Aisha on a pre-boarding call mentioning sensitive cargo, mistaking her for an undercover agent sniffing out the operation. Meanwhile, back on the plane, passengers were restless, but Aisha's story spread like wildfire. The teenager's video hit social media, trending under "For Justice for Aisha," amassing millions of views within hours. Celebrities retweeted, civil rights groups mobilized, and the airline stock dipped 5% overnight. Aisha, now under protective escort, reflected on her life as she waited for clearance. Born in a rough neighborhood in Atlanta, she had joined the army at 18 to escape poverty, excelling in basic training where her sharpshooting skills caught the eye of recruiters. Tours abroad had hardened her, teaching her resilience against not just enemies but systemic biases back home. The Purple Heart came from a roadside bomb that killed her best friend, the Bronze Star from dragging wounded comrades to safety under heavy fire. Now, on what should have been a routine flight, she was thrust into the spotlight again. But the twists deepened. As agents interrogated Karen, she cracked, naming accomplices including a gate agent who had waved through suspicious luggage and a pilot on another road who was in on the take. The smuggling wasn't just tech, it included precursors for synthetic drugs, linking to a larger cartel operating between the US and UK. Aisha's call had inadvertently busted an international ring, saving potentially hundreds of lives from compromised flights or overdoses. In a surreal turn, the FBI offered Aisha a commendation, but she deferred, saying, "Just doing my duty." The plane remained grounded for 48 hours as forensics teams swept it, finding hidden compartments in the galley stocked with contraband. Passengers, rebooked on later flights, shared stories of the incident. A British businessman from London, who had witnessed the push, blogged about it, drawing parallels to UK race relations post-Brexit. An American family from Texas praised Aisha's poise, starting a GoFundMe for her that raised $50,000 a day. Karen faced charges: assault, smuggling, conspiracy. Her airline fired her on the spot, issuing a public apology that rang hollow amid lawsuits from affected passengers. Yet another twist awaited. Aisha's duffel. The documents revealed a personal secret. She was en route to testify in a classified hearing about military corruption, implicating a high-ranking officer who had ties to the same smuggling network. The push wasn't coincidence. Karen had been tipped off by an insider to disrupt Aisha's travel. The colonel, digging further, uncovered emails showing the officer's involvement, leading to his arrest in a dawn raid at the Pentagon. As the dust settled, Aisha boarded a military charter to London, her mission intact. The story made headlines: soldiers call grounds flight, busts ring. It sparked debates on airline accountability, racial bias training, and military-civilian intersections. Aisha, promoted to Master Sergeant, became a symbol of empowerment, speaking at TED Talks and universities. But in quiet moments, she remembered the show, not as defeat, but as the spark that ignited justice. The aftermath rippled far. The airline overhauled policies, mandating body cams for staff. Civil rights organizations used the video in campaigns, influencing legislation in both the US and UK for better protections against discrimination in public transport. Karen, sentenced to 10 years, wrote a memoir from prison, claiming redemption, but few bought it. The disgraced officer faced court-martial, his empire crumbling. Years later, Aisha retired honorably, starting a foundation for veterans of color. The flight that never took off became legend, a reminder that one call can change everything. Twists upon twists, from a simple push to global takedown, prove that courage grounds injustice. Flashback to Aisha's childhood. Growing up in the projects of Atlanta, Aisha Thompson was the middle child of 5, her mother a nurse working double shifts, her father absent after a prison stint for petty theft. School was her escape, where she excelled in track and debate, dreaming of college but knowing scholarships were slim. At 16, a recruiter visited her high school, painting the army as a ticket out. "Serve your country, see the world," he said. Aisha signed up, shipping to Fort Jackson for basic. The drill instructors were merciless, but she thrived. Her 5A frame lean and strong from years of running from trouble. Graduation day, her mother wept with pride, pinning the insignia on her uniform. First deployment to Afghanistan at 20. The heat, the dust, the constant vigilance. Her unit patrolled Helmand Province, where IEDs lurked like shadows. One patrol, her convoy hit a bomb. Shrapnel tore through her shoulder, but she fired back, covering her team. Medevac to Bagram surgery rehab. The Purple Heart ceremony was bittersweet. Her friend Jamal didn't make it. Back to the present as the plane sat grounded, Aisha's phone buzzed with messages from family. Her sister, a teacher in Chicago, texted, "Sis, you're viral! Stay safe!" Her mind wandered to her second tour, Iraq, where she led a squad in Mosul, clearing ISIS holdouts. The Bronze Star came from a night ambush, pinned down in a marketplace. She flanked the enemy, grenades and rifle fire turning the tide. 12 lives saved, including a young private who later named his daughter after her. These memories fueled her resolve. The push from Karen was nothing compared to bullets. Subplot with Karen Whitaker hadn't always been this way. Raised in a affluent Connecticut suburb, she dreamed of being a pilot but settled for attendant after failing flight school. Marriage to Tom, the engineer, seemed perfect until his gambling addiction drained their savings. Divorce left her bitter, childless, scraping by on alimony. The smuggling started small, sneaking luxury goods for friends. Then Tom reappeared, desperate, offering her a cut in a bigger scheme: microchips from Silicon Valley firms sold to overseas hackers. "Just this once," he said. But it escalated to drug precursors hidden in coffee cans in the galley. Karen's bias, rooted in her upbringing, where those people were blamed for society's ills. Seeing Aisha in uniform triggered envy and fear, a black woman succeeding where she failed. Twist revelation: during interrogation, Karen confessed, but dropped a bomb. The tip-off came from Colonel Hale's aide, Lieutenant Barnes, who was the corrupt officer's mole. Barnes had accessed flight manifests, spotting Aisha's name, and alerted the network. Hale, shocked, initiated an internal audit uncovering Barnes' betrayal. Arrests follow. At Barnes' court-martialed, the network dismantled from New York to London. Passenger perspectives expand on the businessman, Edward Harrington from London. A Brexit supporter initially skeptical of race cards, the incident opened his eyes. He wrote an op-ed for The Guardian, witnessing injustice at 30,000 feet. The Texas family, the Millers, with their 2 kids, turned it into a teaching moment. That's not how we treat heroes, Dad said. The teenager, Jamal, coincidentally named after Aisha's fallen friend, became an activist, his video sparking for Grounded for Justice. Aisha's arrival in London met by MI6 liaisons. Her testimony sealed the case against the officer, linking him to cartel funding for arms deals. Promotion ceremony via video link. Hale praising her. You grounded more than a plane. You grounded corruption. Long-term impacts airline industry reforms. Mandatory diversity training. Whistleblower protections. Aisha's foundation helped thousands. From PTSD counseling to job placement. Karen's memoir flopped, but she found religion in prison, volunteering for inmate programs. Final twist years later. Aisha receives a letter from Karen's daughter, Saw, unknown to her, a biracial girl from a secret affair seeking connection. Aisha meets her, forging an unlikely bond, turning pain into healing. The story of Flight 287 endures. A epic of one woman's stand against odds, twists weaving fate's tapestry. From push to grounding, it reminds us justice flies on wings of courage.